I want you all to look around. Seemingly normal crowd, right? Pretty average subsection of Sydney society. Well, if that is the case, the vast majority of us check social media every day. Now, I find that really interesting. Something that barely existed a decade ago now has an unprecedented impact on our daily lives. Now, whilst I don't think this is necessarily a good or a bad thing, I do think it's important to be aware of this influence, and that's why I started this series. Back when I was finishing up this degree in media and fine art, I was becoming fascinated by the increasing influence that social media was having on my everyday, but more specifically, by the way in which social media can draw out these really innate feelings within us all. I found these core desires for approval, appreciation, acceptance were being increasingly engaged online due to the quantification of social interaction that occurs on these platforms. In their analytical atmosphere, where every individual can be evaluated by some metric, where every interaction can be measured or assessed in some way, what we find is these core feelings not only drawn out, but exaggerated. Because unlike social reality, where we're limited by context and time, the potentially infinite audience online draws out another long inherited desire, the desire for more. In this analytical environment where there's no limit on our interactions, these really innate feelings can be easily amplified. So I knew I wanted to make a work about this dynamic, but I wasn't really sure how. I was actually doing work for a different project that I figured it out. I was at a mate's place searching through public domain images when I eventually stumbled across this incredible series of old anatomical etchings. Now, aside from finding these etchings really emotive, I thought, perfect. This was how I was going to represent the way these core feelings are being exaggerated online using the visual metaphor of the skeleton. Now, I excitedly worked on this image, added that representation of digital self, and had a lot of fun printing this work around Sydney. Now, after a few weeks of this, I encountered the first extremely ironic event as a result of making this work. This being the world's largest social media account for street art posted the work. Yeah, a bit awkward. Wasn't quite sure how to feel about that one, but not wanting to implode into a mess of contradictions, I tried to ignore it until a few months went by and the account actually posted another one of the works, this time credited to me. Now again, I wanted to get too obsessed, tried to ignore it until curiosity got the best of me, and I started reading through some of the thousands of comments that were posted on the work. Now, although I usually think art should be open to interpretation, that there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to responding to art, I did find some of the comments to be overwhelmingly negative and pretty reductive. There was a lot of like, yeah, technology is the devil and social media is hell. Not exactly what I was going for, so I decided to write something about the work in an attempt to regain some control over what it was about, or at least offer my thoughts on it. So I wrote this piece about how I thought social media was exaggerating these really innate feelings within us all, but also established the way I like to think about a lot of these digital intricacies. Although a lot of media discourse at the time was focusing on the curation of digital self, I found that concern to be a bit one-dimensional. Because it was actually my online persona, digital interactions happening beyond my control that were feeding back from that space and having an influence on me. I found it was a two-way street of influence, with digital selves having just as much ability to affect us as we do to shape them. Now, thankfully, this text was pretty well received, encouraged me to make another work in this series, this one focusing on a different social media platform that was having an influence on me, this being Facebook. Now, for any art geeks out there that are interested in how I make this work, my practice is actually pretty weird when it comes to street art, in that I'm the only guy I know who walks around with these big silk screens, screen printing public walls. Now, I'd love to talk to you about all the reasons I love silkscreen, but unfortunately, I'm already running a bit behind time, so if you're interested in that, come have a chat with me after. In any case, it was after printing a few of these works that I encountered another extreme irony in making this work. This time I was at the pub with a few friends, and after seeing this work posted on Facebook, one of my mates started having a bit of a go. He insisted that I couldn't go making work that commented on social media and then go post it on those very same platforms, saying it's too ironic, it's ridiculous, you have to stop. Now, I really disagreed with him on this, because aside from the obvious promotional benefits in doing so, I thought that social media was possibly the best place for them. By having them in that online space, potentially interrupting someone's mindless newsfeed scroll, they might actually cause some reflection, have a bit of an impact. Now, being at the pub, I argued with this pokies analogy that if you want to make messages around problem gambling, you don't go putting those messages down at the beach, you put them in the pokies room where they might actually have an effect. And I think the same goes to my work. By having them in that online space, they might actually cause some reflection, have a bit of an impact. But in any case, we stayed mates. He didn't necessarily agree with me, but it was another conversation we had that led me to start thinking about this concept of clickbait. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with this term, referring to online content whose main priority is to garner as many clicks as possible, usually for online advertising. It's when digital popularity is prioritized over the value or quality in online content. Now, this is all a big concern in media circles, because clickbait wasn't living up to its role as the fourth estate. The fourth estate to expose wrongdoing and corruption, to offer content of real public good. But what I realised, if you apply that same standard, that same definition, to the vast majority of online content, this being people's individual outputs on social media, what we see is that clickbait could always be seen as an everyday mentality. With everyone now having the power to publish in the palm of their hands, we no longer just bite on clickbait, but continually bait each other, endlessly fishing for clicks in this online ocean. And although there's nothing wrong with that, there's nothing wrong with casting a line and seeking some online appreciation for whatever it is you're doing, when you think about what most people are fishing with, it's hard not to see a lot of it as clickbait. Because when you think about it, what is the inherent value or insight offered by a selfie? Is digital popularity not the main priority? So it was the intention of these works to encourage people to ask why. Why so many of us feel compelled to constantly create this form of social clickbait. Now, this Bondi mural actually leads quite well into another work from the series, because aside from the more emotional or, I guess, mental focuses of the previous work, this one focuses on the physical, specifically the incredible physical connection that many of us have developed with our phones. Now, I find this area of study really interesting, because aside from our phones being the main portal of connection that many of us have to our digital selves, I have this theory that as an object, our phones have become more ingrained in our daily lives than any other item in our entire history. One of my favourite writers in this area, Franklin Foer from The Atlantic, describes this connection really well when he talks about being at home, not wanting to be on his phone, so he puts it in another room, but has this experience similar to phantom limb syndrome, where he's aware of the phone's absence, but it's still having this really tangible effect on him. Now, I can definitely sympathise with this situation, and it's about time I admit to another extreme irony of making this work, this being that I'm completely addicted to my phone and social media. Now, addiction is quite a contentious term in this area of study, so what I mean by that is my usage is above what I would deem normal or healthy, and it's become utterly habitual at this point. So yes, as a result of making these works, I'm now a fully blown phone face myself. Just ask my girlfriend Julia. I am truly terrible at this point. And it was actually on her request that I use my phone a bit less, but I recently tried to curb my usage. But I had this feeling that I wasn't the only one in control anymore. Up until this point, I would have put all responsibility for usage on the individual, that I was responsible for how much I use my phone. But it was around about this time that I saw another incredible TED Talk by this guy, Tristan Harris. Tristan was actually a Google design ethicist who had this realization that tech giants were actively controlling billions of minds every day. And although that might sound hyperbolic, you might ask, why would these giant tech companies be engaging in something that is essentially mind control? The answer is actually really simple. Attention. Tristan's talk led me to create some more works in the series titled The Attention War. Our battles in this war are being waged every day, and to the winner goes our time. Over the past decade, tech giants have been engaged in this exponentially intensifying arms race, developing any armament, any design feature that might help them achieve their ultimate goal: to hold our attention for as long as possible. Because attention, or engagement, has long been the measure of success, for online empires are built by the advertising revenue our usage generates. Once monetized, the strategy for these digital competitors is simple. The more attention they receive, the more data they collect, the more successful they are. Although there's nothing inherently wrong with this ad revenue business structure, it can be argued the war is now being fought too well. Tech companies are becoming so good at attracting and retaining our attention that their digital domains can no longer be considered neutral territory. Their platforms perpetuate systems that are designed to entrap and addict. Autoplays, snap streaks, content automation, and the never-ending stream of unnecessary notifications are just a few of the ways these companies are warring for our attention whilst disregarding our well-being. Unfortunately, the greatest casualties of this war are those that have never known life without it. So I thought it's time that the billions of participants in this war start determining the way it's fought. I encourage everyone who saw these works to visit Tristan Harris' Centre for Humane Technology and participate. Actively start working towards a better relationship with these technologies, be it through public pressure, through regulation. Try and change the way this war is fought. Now, up until this point, a lot of the works have focused on creating awareness around various issues, and thankfully, I think that awareness has grown really significantly. Due to quite high-profile events like Cambridge Analytica, meddling in the US elections, and other data breaches, people now have a far greater understanding for the incredible impact that these companies, these technologies have over our lives, over our political systems. I think that's a really good thing. But after making these works, I found I quite liked encouraging people to do something rather than just think a bit differently. So today, I'm going to be launching a new initiative that I'd love you all to get involved in. It's called the Like IRL project. Imagine if we liked in real life the same way we do online. If just a fraction of the innumerable likes offered in digital scenarios were matched in reality, the world would be a pretty damn positive place. It's undeniable that actually telling someone that you like them means more than clicking a button on social media. Yet when it comes to the act of liking, the digital realm is where we now feel most comfortable. So today, I've got a little experiment for you to try. A bit of a challenge, if you like. Now don't worry, there's no ice buckets involved. It's actually really easy. For just one day, all you have to do is match every digital like you offer with one in reality. How easy is that? Tomorrow, when you've already forgotten most of what I've had to say, just remember to tell people that you like them. It'll make both you and them feel really good, and it's so easy. Check it out. Hey mate, I like your hair. Looks great. Keep it up. See? How easy was that? By developing parity between real and digital liking, I think this project has the potential to create some real positive change. One of the great things about digital likes is how tangible they are. You receive these notifications, you see these numbers stack up, and they stay there. They're quantifiable and permanent. Yet even the like button's inventor has written about the downside of this. Quantifying digital likes can turn them into this form of social currency, which can be really detrimental. So what I wanted to do with this project is take that good part, but eliminate the bad. Make liking in real life just as tangible as digital likes, but without those annoying analytics. So how do you substantiate the act of liking in real life? Get physical. Yes, today, as a freebie, as a reward for listening to my ramblings, I'm giving these away. here today at other Sydney cultural institutions and via my website as a way to spread the project in the most tangible and enduring way possible. So please, give the challenge a go, grab a couple of these, and give them to people whilst you do it. Encourage them to do the same. Spread the like. And if anyone happens to be watching this talk online, don't like it. Like IRL. Thanks for listening.